Hello everybody, welcome to today's edition of the Two Saints Show. So coming up on today's show, we've actually got for you Saints news, project restart and news from other leagues and Saints transfer news. And I'd just like to remind everyone while we're on here that we have a Facebook page, The Two Saints Show. And via our Facebook page, if you want our podcast edition of the show, you can message us directly and we can send you a copy of the podcast. Also to remind you that we have our podcast up now on our new YouTube channel. So go onto YouTube and look for the Two Saints podcast show, and you'll find all our shows from January right up until the most recent one. And the next show here will be up before the start of next week. Right, moving on from there. It's good afternoon from myself, Mark C, and it's also good afternoon from my co-host, Mark H.
Yeah, how you doing, Mark?
Thanks,
hope the listeners are all keeping well and safe and looking after each other.
Absolutely.
And basically, lots to get through today.
Certainly is.
Lots of stories, lots
Absolutely.
of Saints news, lots of Saints transfer news, and obviously
Absolutely.
lots of news about the lower English leagues.
Absolutely.
In terms of restarting or not restarting, and obviously news from one or two of the Euro leagues. And obviously Mark's going to give us a little recap on the results in the Bundesliga.
I will be. Yeah, and also just a couple of other little things to point out just before we go on with the show. And it is first off, obviously the Facebook page actually has a copy of our podcast up in video form as well. So that's obviously audio, but in video form of the podcast. And also reminder you can subscribe to the podcast on the YouTube channel as well. Well
done, Mark. Very good.
So moving on, we're just going to play you our disclaimer, and when that's done, we will be coming back in and kicking off with our first series of topics on the show, which is Saints news today. We'll be right back after this.
Fiesta FM Southampton 95.0 FM.
Disclaimer. The following program contains language, views, and opinions that may be unsuitable for some listeners. This is not necessarily a view or judgment of Fiesta FM, its management, other hosts, or advertisers. The show is for entertainment purpose only and is not intended to defame, insult, or offend anybody in any shape or form whatsoever. Listeners are advised to exercise caution in their own environment when listening to the show.
Right, there we go. That's the pleasantries out of the way, as they say. Moving on, first story on Saints News Links. Ralph Hasenhüttl proud of his Saints squad's dedication. So we'll trawl through these and come back to the ones we want to give a bit more credit and a bit more coverage to, Mark.
Yeah.
So Ralph Hasenhüttl proud of his squad's dedication. Nathan Redmond is fit and raring to go. 5 questions for Ruddy Joady on favourite Saints teammates, Nigel Adkins, Sam Allardyce and more. Southampton, Jose Font reveals he was forced out of the club. Mane believed teammates did not want him to score before transfer. Robin's defender helping to feed homeless in London. So that covers the Saints news articles that we'll be going into. And the first one of those is Ralph Hasenhüttl stating that he's very impressed with his squad's dedication, Mark, during the obviously lockdown.
Yeah, I mean...
And this was via the Daily Echo. He said he spoke to the Daily Echo about his pride in the way his squad have applied themselves since the lockdown period started. Like those in many occupations, professional footballers have had to overcome many issues in lockdown. However, the most different one's the need to maintain a level of fitness. And obviously, we've all seen the videos on social media of the players going through their motions at home, as they say.
I mean, obviously, they've been given schedules to follow.
Yeah.
Things that they need to be doing, either to keep the weight off, training in general, things
Absolutely.
like that. And obviously, he's just applauding them for their professionalism in this period. The other thing that I would add, just as a matter, it's refreshing to see that none of our players have flagged up for being COVID during the period, which isn't the case in other clubs, Well,
so, I do believe Serge Aurier is being looked at as to whether or not he's actually broken it for a third time.
Yeah,
at the moment, he could be in trouble, naughty boy.
I read that. I really don't want to go into that.
No, we're not going to get into that one.
As I say, very, very sort of proud of the Saints players during the period, and obviously, if that's what Ralph's saying. the players have applied themselves in the right way. Let's hope it converts now they're back in training.
Well, for me as well, a couple of major pluses. Obviously, Nathan Redmond was injured when the season was curtailed, so he's obviously had time to recover from that injury. So that's great news for us. He should be fit and raring to go. So that's great, fantastic. Definitely been a miss. And to inject a bit of fun, Mark, I'll give you a bonus point if you can tell me which Saints player was the fittest man back.
Well, it's not going to be a goalkeeper, obviously. I'll
give you a little hint on this one.
Let's go with Danny Ings.
Oh, our survey said James Ward-Prowse.
Well, there's a surprise. Well,
yeah, isn't it?
The thing is it was one or two.
Exactly. So I can't say I'm surprised because obviously he's the guy that covers.
I'm not shocked at that at all. I mean, he's the one that runs up and down the pitch on a Saturday.
I was going to say he's the one guy in there that covers the most ground. To be fair, and the stats actually bear that out. Yeah. So there you go. A bit of fun there, everyone. Just to inject a bit of fun there.
It's good. It's good in the sense that again, it's kind of taken for granted a little bit now with James because he's come more to the fore, as a player in the team. And, the fact that you're saying, covered the most ground of any Saints player this season.
Yeah.
And yet, he's coming out of lockdown because they've gone back into training. And as you say, at the weigh-in or what people have been doing, he's came out on top in the figures. Are we that surprised as Saints fans? I know I'm not.
I'm not. Definitely not. Definitely not. So obviously the second bit of good news, Nathan Redmond. One good thing to come out of the suspension of football is the star man, Nathan Redmond as we call him. And for anybody who knows David Bowie, there's a very good tune called Star Man. It's very good, and we'll sing it at St Mary's about Nathan Redmond. He was injured back in March and he would have missed games, but he's now back fit and ready to go. It's a very good tune.
First in the song, sorry.
Go on, Mark. I'm not sure we've got the license for that, but we'll let you have a bit of leeway. Off you go.
He's a star man playing on the right. His name is Nathan Redmond and he's dynamite. He's a star man playing on the right. His name is Nathan Redmond and he's dynamite.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Oates is here for the rest of the week, so feel free to ask him for a copy of his latest CD. Right, anyway, moving on. Saints are pleased to have Nathan Redmond back in the squad, but they'll have to go easy on him to make sure he's 100% ready for action. The issue the club and player had was that in lockdown, on one hand, it was good he now had the rest for the muscular injury to recover from it. On the other hand, he hasn't had the medical supervision during that recovery he'd get while he's obviously at the club. So obviously they've got to be really cautious with him. I would say that's the case for any player that's got a muscle injury, to be fair. So that's not exactly news, is it, Sherlock, as I would say?
No.
But for me, massive plus that he's going to be back. That's huge for us, especially given the context of where we were going and the sort of run we were on at the time, I think. So for me, that's absolutely huge, Mark.
Agreed, 100%. You need, at the end of the day, at any stage during the season, especially for a club and a team like ours, you need your best players on the pitch, and he comes into that category.
Definitely. I couldn't agree with that more. So, Radhi Joidi, who's obviously out in the States at the moment with, I can't remember the name of the team. I'm sure Mark will remind me, begins with an H. If Mark can remember as well, I'm not sure.
Something like Hampton or something like that, but yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so
the team's not really relevant, but I know that I think Tariq Johnson's out there as well, isn't he?
I do believe he might be Tariq Johnson. Yes, I think you're probably right. So, When the Saints podcast, one of our fellow Saints podcasts, obviously managed to nail down some great interviews already with former Southampton players, who obviously helped us go from League One back to the Premier League. I believe Dean Hammond, who we interviewed, is in amongst them. So check that interview out that we've got on our YouTube channel, everyone, Dean Hammond. On Monday, When the Saints podcast, new interview with Radhi Joidi will be available. And the host asked him 5 questions on behalf of St Mary's Musings. Those were, who were your favourite teammates during your time at Southampton? And he answered, Jose Font, Morgan Schneiderlin and Papa Wago. And because of the language barrier...
When I read this article, right, I've got to say, just on the first one, because let's break the 5 down, but just on the first answer, that's bleeding obvious, to be fair.
Yeah.
Right? Because all three of those can speak French.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Right? And Raddy speaks French, right?
Yeah.
It saves that any of them having to speak English, because even though Jose Fonte's, Portuguese, I know that he speaks French fluently as well.
And the bonus point, everyone
obviously the other two speak French. So for him to, who did you get on best with the club? Anybody else who spoke French in the squad?
Well, and surprisingly, the bonus point goes to anyone that can identify the samba-influenced player who also got on well with Raddy Jaidi.
Oh, well, that has to be Gulli, obviously.
The legend that is Gulli do Prado.
Yeah.
Right, moving on to the next question.
On that one.
Moving on to the next question. What are the similarities and differences between being managed by Nigel Adkins and Sam Allardyce? I thought this was a bit of a cryptic answer, which I couldn't really work out. He said, totally different. We're talking positive leadership against the leadership I couldn't really characterise.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it makes it sound like you're saying Nigel Adkins was positive, Sam Allardyce didn't have a clue.
Positive leadership would be coming from Nigel Adkins.
I would have thought so.
And Sam would probably have an expectation level, because obviously when he was managing Raddy was playing in the Premier League with the likes of Campo, people like that,
JJ Koch,
so I think, So I think, I think we know which one was the positive one and which one he was having difficulty reading. But yeah. Let's move on from that.
Yep. Who are among the players to especially look out for from the under-23 team? He said, I'd advise Saints fans to look at most of them. There's a lot of talent there, and with the right support, they could make the first team. I think me and Mike will probably disagree a little bit.
I would majorly disagree.
I think there's one guy that we both think
got one or two outstanding talents. Another one that probably, I just think you've probably got three players there out of the ones that are there at the moment that are probably going to make the grade. Maybe four when they talk about Kane Ramsey, but I don't see it personally.
Well, you and I both think that Will Smallbone probably has a little bit of potential about him. He could develop into a decent player. Olin Funwa, without doubt, is head and shoulders above everyone. He's absolutely the best asset we've got.
I think there's obviously it depends how he develops. It depends how he devops, but for me, of the crop that's there, yes. And then of course you've got Jake Vokins.
Yep. And we saw Vokins and Smallbone play for the Saints.
Yeah, but they've already
played quite well, didn't they?
They've already been earmarked. So,
what was your proudest moment as a player or coach during your time at Saints? One moment was to see 523 players get involved with the first team, and the moment when Hasenhüttl came into the change room to ask me to substitute Tyreek Johnson at halftime during the game, as he needed him to train with the first team next day and play him on the weekend, was unprecedented. So there was that. That was amazing. Overall, last season was successful in many aspects.
Yeah, okay. There's a little bit of blowing your own trumpet here, really. But as far as I know, with Tyreek Johnson, it was more to do with the FA Cup matches, really. And there was a few that got exposed there, whether it was in the Derby away game or the Derby home game. I think Tyreek Johnson played in both. Or if he didn't play in both, he certainly played in the home game.
Yes, definitely.
The home game against Derby last season.
Yep.
But in relation to the away game, you had, Callum Slattery played.
Yep.
You also had Marcus Barnes came on as a substitute. But I just the thing for me would be, I know Tyreek Johnson as well played in a league game. He came on as a substitute in a league game. But the thing is though, just on him, right? If there was such a demand on him, why was he farmed out at the start of the season if the club had pretensions about him continuing his development into the first team squad. That's the question you would ask yourself there.
Definitely. Yeah, and the next question was, who did you see as the most talented Southampton teammate while you were playing for Saints? And he answered, there's two of them. What a shocker this one was. There's two of them. They've made it to the heights at Liverpool. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Adam Lallana.
I was going to say I can probably answer this. And it was probably Oxlade-Chamberlain and Adam Lallana.
Which I'm not surprised that Dean Hammond was obviously asked on our behalf who he felt was the best player he played with at the time that he was there. And he said Lallana as well.
Did he?
Yeah, so no massive shock there, to be fair. Obviously, Alex unfortunately had a lot of injuries, but he proved he was different class every time he came back. Even at a young age, they were both technically very good. Yeah, I can't really argue with that. As much as I didn't like the way Adam Lallana left the club, it left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. Both of them phenomenal footballers, and you can't say indifferent. So yeah, for me that was pretty self-explanatory, most of that actually. Probably not the most probing questions we've heard, Mark, in an interview.
No.
Right, Jose Font reveals how he was forced out of Southampton Football Club. Now, this could well cause a few ructions because there were a few people who had different ideas at the time as to why Jose left. Again, one of those players that would say probably left a bit of a foul taste in him.
Mark, there's no. Let's not be ambiguous about this.
No, I'm not.
Okay, let's call it down the line. Okay, the thing is he wanted a longer contract, right?
Yep.
And he wanted it improved money wise. Okay, and I personally felt at the time it was deserved. Okay. Yep. You know, he wasn't on any sort of significant money. I would have said with Saints, okay, and yes, there was probably a bit of arrogance. He just came back from winning the European Championships, and that's that's well documented. But the thing was the club obviously had taken the decision or the thought process of his legs have gone, he's of an age, we're only offering him the 1 year. As I understood it, he was only offered the 1 year, right? He wanted 2 years. They weren't willing to give him 2 years, right? And obviously it was on the same sort of terms that he was already on. So there wasn't a significant sort of movement in wages. And and I just think to myself, surely given what he'd achieved at the football club, did he probably deserve that? And then when you look at what he went on and did, now if you take the West Ham transfer out of the equation, but then you look at what he went on and did, I mean, Lille was playing in the Champions League this season. I mean, him and Dusan Tadic were photographed in the centre circle with each other, respective captains of Ajax and Lille when they played each other in the Champions League, group stages. So
the point I was making about it was there were a raft of fans who felt that what I was trying to say about it was there were a raft of fans who felt that he left the club under a cloud because of the way he behaved, and there were other fans that felt the club actually forced him out. Now, obviously, going into this now and what he's actually said in this interview now, it sounds far more likely that the club actually forced him out the door, which is what a lot of fans obviously thought. Now, that is obviously going to change a lot of fans' perspective on the situation because there are a fair few fans, as you and I both know, that were up in arms about him, very angry at Jose Font. In fact, it was all him. In fact, he was just being arrogant because he come back from the Euros. In fact, he was worth more than he was worth, etc., etc. Now, obviously, the fact he's still playing at Lille now, at whatever age he's at now, what is he now? 36, is he now? 33, 36? I don't know.
But obviously not.
36, he's still doing a really good job. So
37 he is now.
He's obviously still got it in him. So he could have easily played another couple of seasons for Saints. He wasn't asking for a huge amount of money more. It wouldn't have even put him in the top 3 owners at the club. So I think they should have paid him what it was worth. And to hear that they basically put in a transfer request that he never even issued himself, that to me is just naughty, very naughty.
Well, all I would say, Mark, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on it, and then you can come back if you want to, right? But there's 2 things I would say on it. One is Saints shot themselves in the foot because they had a player that was available in the Europa League games
Yep.
that they decided not to play. You know, they decided one of their better players, whether they like it or not, and he was still on the books, decided not to play him. I don't care what anybody says. They made the decision not to play him in those Europa League games.
Yeah.
You know? And
he did actually say that.
And it ended up costing us because him and Van Dijk at the back is a lot better than any other permutation you could have dug up with that season.
Well, in fairness, he did actually say that he had no support from Claude Puel.
No, well, I think the thing is he as I understand it, and he actually asked Claude if he would be supportive in terms of his demands in relation to a new deal, and Claude said he would, and then that was all backtracked on as far as I understand it. But all I'm going to say is, I'm not saying that Jose was whiter than white. I could imagine that, because he wasn't getting his own way, right? And, you hear it from one or two people that were in and around the club at the time, they say he was a disruptive influence in the dressing room. But then the issue that I had, Mark, was, right, that summer, okay, there was contracts, extended contracts being given to younger players.
Yep.
Okay, by a certain individual. I'm not going to mention his name. If you want to look it up, you should all know who we're talking about here, right? And he took it upon himself to give the younger players contracts, right? Now, I raised my eyebrow concerning one particular person who I'm not going to mention on air, right, who was given a new contract, okay?
Yep.
And I just think to myself, if there had been more of a thought process put into it, okay, Saints could have easily probably given, Jose the new 2-year contract that he craved, on probably better terms. That is all I'm going to say on the subject.
No, I agree.
But on the flip side of it, I will concede that, he was probably not a great influence in the dressing room at the time. But then he was probably annoyed because he thought to himself, I've given 7 years of service here, or six years of service, whatever it was. And he's probably sat there thinking, this is how I'm valued by the football club. But anyway.
Well, yeah, he asked for that, and what he got was a transfer request, which was his transfer listed, which was a smack in the mouth for him, really, wasn't it? Anyway, moving on. So to another player who's aggrieved at Southampton, Sadio Mane believes the selection of Saints players did not want him to score goals, according to his former teammate Victor Wanyama. He claims Mane asked him to specifically pass the ball to him during their time together under Mauricio Pochettino and Ronald Koeman at St Mary's. Got to be honest, Victor, I don't remember you actually giving Mane that many assists.
No, and anyway, I know that it was Ronald Koeman that Sadio was under anyway. But having said that, I'm dubious about this whole article with Victor. I've got to say,
me too.
Last week he was saying that he felt, that he underachieved at Tottenham and Saints, and really at the end of the day, Saints probably did well to get their money back on him when he moved to Tottenham. Because if you look at the amount of appearances, I checked the amount of appearances he made while he was at Tottenham. At Tottenham for a good few years.
He was.
He only made about 30 appearances.
Yeah, crazy.
That ain't anywhere near enough, really.
No.
He probably would have been better off staying with us because at least he would have probably been a constant in the first team. But
absolutely. Yeah,
I just thought it was a strange article as well.
Yeah, me too, Mark.
Because
I've got to be honest,
Mane hasn't came out and said anything. It's just strange that Victor should bring that one up, Yeah,
it's a case of okay, Victor. Thanks for letting us know about that. Yeah, strange one. So, obviously, former Chelsea, Leicester City and Southampton defender currently helping to feed the homeless in central London.
Yeah,
this is obviously former Saints player De Bayo. I can't remember his first name.
Josh De Bayo.
Josh De Bayo, that's it. Yeah, over to Mark H, who knows a fair bit about this story. He's been following it fairly closely.
Right, so in actual fact, him and his mother have a table outside of, I think it's the Embankment tube station, and they obviously, when the lockdown happened, they couldn't get out there, but now the restrictions have been lifted a bit.
Yeah,
he's obviously been out there. I think in the last 2-3 weeks.
Yeah,
told that they can, go back out there. Obviously, I've seen photographs of him actually helping some of the homeless people that were taken last week. Yeah, and I just thought to myself, people are supplying stuff behind the scenes, and they're doing this and doing that. And Josh's mum's Nigerian.
It says it's actually
cooking chicken curry and stuff like that.
It says they gather outside Charing Cross Station on the Strand 2 or 3 times a month. Yeah. They give out all kinds of dishes, traditional Nigerian food, jollof rice and chicken curry, porridge for vegans, pasta and mac and cheese.
But
also water, tea and coffee. Fantastic.
Yeah, but all I would say is, Mark, is right, while it's commendable that people are being supportive.
Yeah,
and they're doing, our football players are being supportive and doing stuff. Here's someone that's very much hands-on,
Yeah,
and it's
definitely.
Basically because his mum has had the table for years. That this isn't something that's come up just because of the coronavirus.
Oh no, you're absolutely
right.
This
is something that Josh has been doing outside of. Absolutely. Sorry, I thought it was the Embankment, but you're right. It was Charing Cross Station. Right, but they've had this table outside Charing Cross Station helping the homeless for years. So more part of his elbow because he's getting his hands dirty,
Yeah, fair play to him. I mean, we do similar things in Southampton. It's some of the church groups do it. A couple of other groups around Southampton do it where they have a table and just give out food to the homeless people, which is fantastic. It's nice to know they're not being forgotten at this time. Right, moving on. That's come to the end of our first section of the show today. So we're going to take a short break and we will be back after that.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show. The Two Saints Show here on Fiesta FM. Tune in every Thursday 12 till 2 for informative football chat and great tunes.
Right, welcome back everyone. So our next segment of the show, Project Restart and other related news. League 2 clubs vote to end season, but League 1 teams fail to decide. The League 2 season is brought to an early conclusion after talks between clubs and the English Football League. Port Vale's owner was left shaking after voting to end the season. Port Vale chair Carol Shanahan says she came away shaking after voting to end the League 2 season. Harry Kane, England captain, donates Leyton Orient shirt sponsorship deal that he's now struck to good causes. 3 different good causes that are going to be on Leyton Orient shirts coming up in the coming season. Well, next season they're available to play, obviously. So, I think we'll start with the, and obviously there's also some League One stories as well. We're on the topic of obviously restarts, etc. League One playoffs to be extended to include more clubs. League One playoffs could be extended after the EFL announces the need to find innovative and creative solutions. League One clubs should follow League Two and end the season, according to Rochdale's chief executive. David Bottomley wants Rochdale's fellow League One clubs to end their season and not be swayed by the money side of things, I believe. AFC Wimbledon ask fans if they're willing to waive season ticket refunds if games aren't completed. I believe some of them have already done that, and obviously they're fan-owned, so that obviously does change things. And obviously there's another link with regards to English Football League promotion and relegation to remain if seasons are curtailed. So promotion and relegation will remain in the English Football League if seasons are ended amid the coronavirus crisis. So back to the top of that, Mark.
Right, okay, so obviously
this
is us covering all the Football League news, okay? Yeah. Just want to say that to the listeners. So
absolutely.
The first couple of links there obviously are the League Two, and League Two made the decision last Friday it was to basically end the season. Now the reason why I picked up on this is we have seen in recent weeks I wouldn't say the greed, but I would say in the lower leagues, it's definitely the bigger clubs railroading the smaller clubs to try and, play on, right?
Yeah.
And you've got a situation where with the smaller clubs, they don't really want to play on because financially it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt them either way.
Certainly would.
The bigger clubs obviously have, promotion in mind. They're all in the sort of mixer for it and stuff like that. So League Two to make the decision, the end of the season, to me, it's a good decision. It's the correct decision.
Yeah. And
basically on the Port Vale thing, the reason why Port Vale were, I would say you would look at Port Vale in the sense of they're in the playoff places, right? And apparently the way that they're going to work the League Two table out, they'll actually drop out of the League Two places.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So it's gonna cost them. But
definitely.
Their chairwoman, Carol Shaughnessy, I think it is. Shanahan, sorry. She came out obviously and said that it was morally the right thing to do, and I applaud her. The thing is they can do it at that level when it's probably hurting them even more. To be honest with you, Mark,
can't argue with that.
And then they've basically sacrificed their opportunity of having a playoff place, because chances are they may have stayed there, they may have not, but they've sacrificed that for the greater good and people's health. So they need to be applauded for that, because obviously all we're hearing about at the minute is clubs wanting to force the issue for their own self-benefits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't disagree with that. So obviously Harry Kane has struck a deal with Leyton Orient. He's sponsoring their shirts next season and donating the space to 3 good causes, Mark. So Charity Mind, Haven House Children's Hospice, and also a message of thanks to the frontline workers regards to the coronavirus pandemic.
And I thought it was a fantastic piece, to be honest with you. I mean, Harry was on loan in his early career.
Yeah, 17 years old when he joined Orient on loan from Tottenham.
Yeah, so he, I just thought it was a magnificent gesture, and obviously it came up, and it's to be applauded.
Yeah, it's good to see a Premier League and England footballer actually doing some good outside of his own club as well, isn't it? And not forgetting his roots. Because a lot of players obviously do forget their roots as they go up through the leagues. So it's nice to see Harry Kane actually still having his feet firmly on the ground, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So that covers those, Mark. The League One news.
Yeah. So
obviously League One playoffs could be extended.
Yeah, the League One links for me were on this one about to be extended. Again, right, this shows where people's thinking are at, right? Because basically what the suggestion is let's extend the playoffs, okay? So theoretically, you're basically including all the big hitters, because there's one or two big hitters, let's say, that aren't in the playoff positions at the minute. Right?
Yeah.
So if you extend it down to the bottom 10, or the top 10, then you're going to be including all the big clubs. Like, for example, I think I'm right in saying Sunderland, right, aren't in the top, aren't in the playoff places at the minute, right? But if you extend it down to the top 10, they are. And you sort of sit there and you think, accommodation, no worries. So this is another example for me of naked interest. Because obviously, Sunderland, I mean, I quite like Sunderland as a football club, but it's difficult to sort of speak ill of them, really, because they've been through a bit of a rough trot. Well, the fans been through a bit of a rough trot the last few seasons.
Well, yeah, you've got 1 point separates. 1 point separating third place Oxford and 8th place Wycombe. And under the current rules, the top 2 in League One, Coventry and Rotherham, will be promoted, but those finishing from 3rd to 6th competing in the playoffs. Wycombe in 8th are 1 point off the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, though, I suppose it's their way of trying to accommodate everybody that's got a self-interest. But you've got to remember that the sort of the big 6 clubs in that division obviously all signed a letter recently.
Yep.
So we're talking the likes of Peterborough, Portsmouth, Sunderland, and they've all sort of signed a letter saying that irrespective, all 6 of these clubs are determined to finish the season. So I don't see how this stalemate that seems to have developed in that league is going to be solved, really. And the other thing to say is, like, another story that we're covering and other stories that we're going to be talking about here, and I'm just going to bring them all in so that we can sort of move it forward a bit. But one is Rochdale. Now, Rochdale is one of the lesser financially secure clubs in that division. Okay, they don't make as much money as other clubs, so it's the other side of the coin. And obviously, their chairman has come out and said that basically he would much prefer for League One to finish the season. And this is the void you have, because you've got 3 different tiers. You've got the bigger clubs who all want to, they want to play the season to a conclusion.
Interesting. Most of them are in all around the playoffs.
You've got the middle ground clubs who have been League One clubs for many a year, so that they're representing those. And then you've got the sort of the lower tier sort of clubs who don't have as much money, right? Like your AFC Wimbledons that we're going to come on to at the minute, and your Rochdales and your Tranmeres, but it's like I said to you the other day, the likes of AFC Wimbledon and Tranmere were playing non-league football a couple of seasons ago, and obviously, it's great to see them punching. So, and long may it continue that they're progressing up the leagues and whatever.
Can't argue with that.
And I understand where the chairman of Rochdale's coming from, but this is where you have the problem, where you've got bigger clubs in the lower league, and they're pushing the agenda more than the other clubs being listened to.
It's almost like being bullied, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is very much so, mate. Yeah,
same with the Premier League, to be fair. I think they're top. I mean, they're saying that the Premier League vote was unanimous, and I'm a little bit surprised at that, because my understanding was quite a few teams weren't in favour of that. So I'm surprised it was a unanimous decision from the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean,
that surprises me, because that's not the impression we were getting.
All I would say is I don't really want to go too much into this one, but I think the reason why that was unanimous, Mark, was basically because, it was agreed that, home games were going to be played at home. And and that more or less appeased people. I mean, I still don't think that this sort of the 6 clubs that were objecting are very happy about restarting.
Well, to be fair, I don't think.
But I'm not. I don't want to, because we're covering the League Two and League One clubs.
Yeah, I've only got one final thought in the fact that, regardless of what we were just saying, it doesn't amount to a hill of beans for the teams that are still at the bottom, because I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference to them. I don't think the situation is going to change much for the bottom 3, to be fair. Anyway, AFC Wimbledon asked fans to waive season ticket refunds if games are not completed.
Yeah. Well,
now obviously they are fan owned, so that carries a bit of weight.
Back to financial situations, okay? And the thing is like, I get it, because if I was an AFC Wimbledon, season ticket holder, I wouldn't expect them to be refunding the money, right?
Yep.
Slightly different when you're following a Premier League club who, you sit there and you think to yourself, well, okay, all the chickens are coming home to roost now with Corona because obviously it's going to hit them financially.
Yep.
But then you also sit there and you think to yourself, well, when you've been making all this money, there must be clubs out there that have done a certain amount of stockpiling. I mean,
I would have thought so.
There's many a Saints fan in recent years that has been of the opinion that when it's come to the TV money, because we don't invest it necessarily in transfers, which we've already discussed.
Yep.
Admittedly, a lot of it does go on wages, but the thing is I think that it's true to say that we've had profits for the last 5-6 seasons, right?
Well, you and I both know, Mark, because we did this on the show, that it's £50 million the wage bill at Saints.
Yeah. But, like I said to you, if you divvy up what they get in TV revenue and then take the wages out, you're sat there and you're thinking to yourself, so at the end of every season, are people in their counting houses going, well, this is the profit that we've got left, let's divvy it up between, Yep,
there you go. All right, English Football League promotion and relegation to remain if the season is ended.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Bit similar to the FPL, really.
We've spoken about this quite a bit on the show in recent weeks, okay? And you can't have promotion in the same way that you can, you've got to have promotion and relegation. Otherwise, what was the whole point of the season,
Absolutely.
Recently we had the bottom 6 clubs in the Premier League and they're all sitting there going, no, we don't want relegation. And I'm sat there thinking, well, you might as well not have European places. You might as well give Liverpool the league title.
Exactly.
And this follows the same train of thought. But I am relieved. I am relieved that the English Football League authorities have turned around and said, no matter what happens, there's going to be promotion and relegation.
So it should be.
Yeah,
so it should be. So, Premier League start date. This is Premier League news links now. Premier League start date, still June 12th, but flexible. So, after Monday's Premier League meeting, clubs have unanimously agreed to proceed towards a 12th of June start date. Yeah,
I mean, I think I actually spoke about this last night before it became common news, right?
You probably did.
That there was, as far as I was aware, the plan was to play the first game on the Friday night, which I think was going to be something like Manchester United and Tottenham or somebody like that on the Friday night, a fairly big game to start off with. And then you were going to have games over the weekend, the Saturday, the Sunday, the Monday. Because on the TV front, we had said that, yes, BT and Sky were going to get their cut of the games. And any of the games that were left over were going to be free to air on the YouTube platform. So, but the thing is even if it isn't those dates, Mark, right? Even if it isn't that particular weekend, it'll be the following weekend. So it's either or. It's going to be, 12th of June or the 19th of June, as I see it, as the start date. Yeah. And I'd be very surprised if it isn't one of those 2 weekends.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, Man United have obviously let their fans know that they're actually going to refund their season tickets for the remaining home games, Mark.
Yeah, I mean... Well,
and they've also urged fans not to travel to games played behind closed doors.
Yeah, I mean, look, the last bit's fairly self-explanatory. You'd have to be some sort of idiot to do that.
Absolutely.
Obviously they're issuing it because, it's a fairly large fan base, so I get that. But, I'm thinking to myself, surely people are going to use their common sense. But then I suppose during the lockdown, certain people have shown that they haven't got much common sense. But anyway,
sadly.
Well, what was I going to say? No, the reason why I included it was because obviously there's a vested interest for any season ticket holder in this article, because you sort of see Manchester United saying to the supporters, look, you know, we've made the decision that rather than trying to sort of say to you, oh, what we'll do is we'll knock X amount of money off your season ticket, you know, because we've got no guarantees in relation to when seasons are going to be starting or anything like that there.
Yeah.
We don't know when we're going to get back to stadium.
True.
You know, I think due to the uncertainty, obviously they've took the stance that, you know, they've decided that no, they're going to refund the money. And also, I think it's a good thing, Mark, because of the degree of financial uncertainty, you know.
Yeah.
Even when the pandemic's over, you know, you got the financial uncertainty now, but even when it's over, because you know, we're now being told that there's going to be a major recession and stuff like that. So you know, it makes a lot of sense. So let's see if our own club and other Premier League clubs are going to follow suit.
Well, let's see. It certainly happened with the Folo situation, didn't it? That clubs follow suit of other clubs. So talking about obviously financial impacts and stuff like that. Obviously the SPFL have ended the season. Celtic are crowned champions for the 9th season in a row, and Hearts have been relegated. Hearts pretty unhappy about that, to be fair, and it's going to cost them massively financially as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is I think the other thing is that people are looking at the cost of actually being able to complete the season, Mark, as well, right? Because financially it's expensive. I mean, you know, if I said to you, right, if you're Celtic or Rangers, I can only take this as what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
If you win the Premier League, if either one of those, and this is true, Bill, okay, if you're either one of those clubs, right, and you win the Scottish Premier League, right, it's worth £2 to £3 million a year, right? You get £1 million for winning the league, right?
Yeah.
And then the other stuff is endorsements, the amount of money that's generated through, you know, what do you call it? Commercial and obviously club shop sales and stuff like that, because it goes shooting up. Right, you win a title, go shooting up, but it's £3 million, right? And you look at that in stark contrast to the English Premier League, right? There's no comparison. They're not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing briefly that I want to touch on, right? And this will give you some idea as well. I was reading during the week, okay, because the Championship players are due to start back on Monday, okay?
Yep.
And here's the thing, right? And again, this shows to me how well Premier League players are looked after, right? You know, because the Championship players are having to pay for their own coronavirus checks.
Yeah.
Right? They're having to pay for their own tests, you know? And the thing is, and I'm sat here and I'm thinking to myself, I guarantee you that'll be the same thing if League One decide to continue, you know? So the thing is like the Premier League players are so well catered for. You know, when you look at some of the sides even in the Championship, and they're asking the players, you know, for the pay for the tests for COVID-19 themselves, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, moving on. A very similar situation in Belgium to in France. Club Bruges, who had an unassailable lead, declared Belgian champions after the season was ended because of the current situation.
Yeah, I mean,
so very similar to the French League, Mark, League One.
Yeah, we were expecting this to be confirmed a couple of weeks ago because it was believed that it was, but they actually only confirmed it last Friday.
That's correct.
You know, it's a little bit like, you know, Belgium I was expecting to declare around the same time as France, and France done it a few weeks ago.
Yep.
So obviously they voted to end it, and I mean, there's not a lot more to say about that, because basically we've been waiting for confirmation from them for a while now, to be honest.
Yep, definitely. So moving on from there, obviously all eyes were on the Bundesliga, who actually resumed at the weekend. So I'm going to run you through this story that was written by Konstantin Eckner. The reason we're reading this out on the show is the fact that it seems really relevant at the moment, given everything that's going on. The fact that Premier League's going to restart.
I think it's a story worth reading out. So
we're going to go through that one, and after that, we'll be giving you the results from the last round of Bundesliga matches that were played, obviously, at the resumption of the Bundesliga. So the eyes of the football world were on Germany when the Bundesliga returned to action on Saturday. It became the first major European league to return since football was suspended because of the coronavirus pandemic, with 6 fixtures on Saturday and a further 2 matches on Sunday. All games played under heavy precautions laid out by the German Football League. What was it like at the first closed-door matches? German football expert Konstantin Eckner was at Eintracht Frankfurt's 3-1 defeat by Borussia Mönchengladbach to find out. Some people were fitted with tracking devices. Staging spectator-free matches and thus removing the league's biggest asset, its atmosphere, was a major talking point ahead of the restart on Saturday and will probably remain one, as public gatherings prohibited in Germany at least to the end of August. Television broadcast during the afternoon made immediately clear that every shout, sound of the referee's whistle and thud of the ball bouncing off the stands would create a haunting atmosphere at all of the matches played in this way. The experience for those inside the stadium was even more bizarre at times. According to the league's hygiene protocol, only up to 320 people, including the players' staff, club officials, journalists, broadcasters and security personnel, were allowed to enter a stadium divided into 3 sections: the field area, stands and outside area. Journalists had permission to only go to Section 2, the stand. They arrived at the stadium 90 minutes before kick-off to go for a security check while already wearing a mask. Approaching the Commerzbank Arena, it was noticeable how uncommonly quiet it was. Approximately 90 minutes before a match, normally the car park would be filling up with people swarming toward the entries. Not on this occasion. The atmosphere was chastened, with everyone keeping their mouths under face masks and obeying distancing rules. There was no chatting or joking with security personnel. Instead, everyone that wanted to enter the stadium acted seriously, realising how surreal the situation was. Security officers at the entrance were waiting to check the accreditations of everyone, and more importantly, to receive forms with questions about recent symptoms and infections in the family. Temperature checks were also performed. Eintracht Frankfurt decided to test special small transponders as tracking devices. Around 30 people were asked to wear these transponders the entire time, tracking their movement and alerting them if they came too close to another transponder carrier. Some precautions did seem as though they were only for show. In the stadium, journalists can reach the press area by elevator. Once the elevator door opened, the empty stands made for a sorry sight, while music was being played over the loudspeakers for whatever reason. The stadium DJ decided to play the Ghostbusters song shortly before kickoff. Spectator-free games are usually called ghost matches, Geisterspiel in Germany. The 2 teams tried to adhere to the litany of rules included in the hygiene protocol. However, there was still some uncertainty. Assistant coaches and bench players were initially asked to wear masks all the time, but were not sure whether they had to wear them during warm-up on the pitch. Mönchengladbach didn't exactly follow the timeline for the arrival of the teams. They changed clothes in the hotel instead of using the stadium's locker rooms, and only put their boots on before going out on the field. Once the pre-match procedure began, precautions immediately before kick-off appeared to be pointless, given the full contact nature of the game. Players not allowed to shake hands or gather for a team picture. The referee and the 2 team captains stayed a couple of yards apart for the coin toss. The match looked as normal as ever, with players not hesitant to engage in physical duels or getting close enough to each other in the moments before a corner kick. But after a goal, the players kept distance to celebrate. As sophisticated as the Bundesliga's hygiene protocol may be, it still has weak points. Some precautions are seemingly only for show. As an observer, you got used to the silence. The instructions by the coaches and players echoed around the empty stadium. When one Mönchengladbach defender screamed Jonas twice, he defended midfielder Jonas Hoffmann to come closer to him. He demanded he come close to him. When head coach Adi Hütter shouted play across the field, he was annoyed that one of his players held onto the ball for too long. Successful tackles or dribbles accompanied by a smattering of applause from substitutes bench and first rows of stands where other players were sitting. This kind of football is isolated from any outside emotion. Fans don't only scream and cheer throughout the match, but also react to success and failure. Behind closed doors, the matches feel less consequential despite the outcome. The evening match on Saturday turned into a one-sided affair, with Mönchengladbach leading by 2 goals after only 7 minutes. Frankfurt struggled to fight back and couldn't count on the support of 40,000 passionate fans, as is usually the case inside the arena. When Frankfurt's Andre Silva scored a late goal to make it 3-1, the usual music shrilled over the loudspeakers, even though there was no one there to celebrate and the home team were about to lose. It was the bizarre end to a bizarre first day of top-flight football behind closed doors. And that's the kind of football, unfortunately, we're going to be looking forward to behind closed doors, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I would add to that is that, that was worth reading out on air, to be honest, Mark. But I think this is going to become the norm now for however long it's going to be. I mean, I don't envisage us going back into the stadium for about a year, personally.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
But, let's see where it goes. But the only thing I would say is I watched one of the games. I watched Dortmund, I think it was.
Yep.
And the only thing I would say is it was fantastic to see that the players were at least observing social distancing.
Absolutely.
On the pitch. I
must admit, the socially distanced goal celebration for Erling Haaland's first goal was quite bizarre, to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, all I would say is it was weird. I mean, there was 2 penalties over the weekend that I know of in the Bundesliga, and they weren't contact penalties. They were more sort of pushes. People.
I was going to say, I'm led to believe that it wasn't actually for. Yeah, it wasn't actually for a specific foul, was it? It was just contact.
It wasn't even contact. It was, it was a bit of a girly push in the back, really. So, yeah. So that was basically it.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll now run you through the scores from the Bundesliga. So obviously on their restart, and beginning with the game Mark was talking about, Borussia Dortmund 4, Schalke 0, Augsburg 1, Wolfsburg 2, Düsseldorf 0, Paderborn 0, RB Leipzig 1, Freiburg 1, Hoffenheim 0, Hertha Berlin 3, Frankfurt 1, Borussia Mönchengladbach 3, Cologne 2, Mainz 2, Union Berlin 0, Bayern Munich 2, and Werder Bremen 1, Bayer Leverkusen 4. So thumping win for Dortmund, and fair to say a thumping win for Leverkusen, Mark.
Yeah.
So those are the Bundesliga scores from their first round since resumption of the Bundesliga. Right, that brings us nicely to the end of that section of the show. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be covering Saints transfer news links, unless there's anything Mark would like to add about the scores.
No.
Brilliant. So we'll take a break, and we'll be back after that with Saints transfer news links for the rest of the show.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show. The Two Saints Show here on Fiesta FM. Tune in every Thursday, 12 till 2 for informative football chat and great tune.
Right, welcome back everybody. So, Saints transfer news. It's unrealistic. Saints man fears $7 million price tag will ruin his dream move. Saints boss Ralph Sasson was not handed Wesley Hoot a single Premier League appearance since he took over. Wesley Hoot's obviously looking for a permanent move out. Saints doesn't feel it's going to happen because he feels his price tag is too much. I think most Saints fans would agree they'll take whatever they can get for him. Reported Leicester Saints and Burnley target Omar Al-Abdullahi speaks out. Reported Leicester City Southampton Burnley target says he wants to remain at Olympiacos. Right, that won't be happening then.
Hooray! Hooray! Let him stay there.
Right, we will adapt.
Takes the time.
Manager accepts Tottenham and Everton link star could leave. So Jose Mourinho, Carlo Ancelotti and Rafa Hasenhüttl want to bring Mohamed Simakan to the Premier League, and apparently his manager is accepting the fact that he may well leave. So if it's Tottenham and Everton, he won't become the Saints, so that's another one that you can rule out. Neil Lennon is hopeful of signing Fraser Forster and Mohamed Ali Yunusi. Regards to Ali Yunusi, I think most Saints fans would take the money and run when it comes to him. They'd even drop him off in Scotland themselves. Forster, myself and Mark feel he's probably worthy of another chance at Saints, but probably not going to happen, is it, unfortunately? So back to the first story, Mark, and that is Wesley Hoot. He feels his price tag's too high at £7 million.
Yep, so Wesley Hoot.
And reckons he's had plenty of offers.
He may think he's had plenty of offers, but obviously it's not offers that Saints are looking to play ball with.
Yeah, exactly.
You still get the impression that they've got to try and get some sort of money for him. I mean, it's being suggested that he's available for around £7 million.
Yeah.
6 or 7 million quid, which I think's fair. And if the club can get that for him, again, I just feel that we're going to end up getting maybe 5 for him. It's the thing is like when you put a player up for loan, right, and he's going to Royal Antwerp, and you're sat there, you're thinking, I ain't going to get it. He's not going to one of the big leagues, is he?
That's right.
You're sort of sat there and you're thinking to yourself, well, if that's the sort of team he's being loaned out to, as I say, you're going to be scrambling around at 4 million quid, 6 million, whatever sort of top whack you can get for him, because those are the only clubs, he ain't going to be going to, unless it's a promoted Italian club, he ain't going to be going to Italy, right?
But the thing is, I hate to tell Wesley
this. He ain't going to be going to Spain,
no offence, Wesley, but
he ain't going to be going anywhere else in the Premier League unless it's a promoted club.
No offence to Wesley Hoot as well. No offence to Wesley Hoot. If Saints can't even agree an £8 or £9 million deal with Galatasaray for Mario Lemina, they ain't going to agree with a deal for Wesley Hoot for £7 million, are they?
That's a very good example there.
Yeah, no offence to Wesley Hoot in any way. He's one of those players I think probably should have been given a bit more of a chance, but hasn't. But it is what it is, isn't it? We have to move on from that.
The thing that I would say, Mark, is right, because I've always defended him a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think that he is better than one or two of the players that get more exposure.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there was an occasion where we both felt that Wesley Hoot should have been given a bit more of an opportunity rather than a couple of other players we could mention, which we're not going to mention because we've done it to death.
Yeah.
But I certainly agree with you on that one. I do concur. He's the one player that showed a little bit more potential than some others.
Yeah.
But unfulfilled. But there you go.
And but the other thing that I would say about him is, right, and he doesn't do himself any favours at all, right, is there is a bit of an attitude there, right? He's one of these players, right, and it's a little bit like Pierre when we were talking about Pierre last week, when he was talking about, I want to play, I want to win the Champions League and I want to win the Premier League, and you're sitting there going, well, do you think you're honestly good enough to do that? I know you played for, Bayern Munich and that. But are you actually good enough to do that?
That's right.
And the thing is it's a little bit like that with Wesley, where he actually thinks he's better than he actually is.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's not a decent player, but he does seem to think that he's better than he actually is, and I do think that there's an attitude problem there. Even though I've said it before, I think he's maybe better than one or two of the other players that are at Saints at the minute, in that position.
Yeah.
But then again, if you've got an attitude problem, and you think you're better than you actually are, it does tend to count against you. You have to be able to back, if you're going to be vocal, you have to be able to back it up with the performances on the pitch. And
definitely. So Omar Alabdulai speaks out, says that he wants to stay at Olympiacos. That's probably a player, Mark, you and I are probably quite relieved we're not going in for.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a bit of a, he's 27 years of age. Does he
Norwegian as well?
Does he fit the remit? No, right? Are Saints interested in him? Quite possibly they are, right?
But is it more likely to be agent talk? Yes.
Yes, but the thing is he's a right back, and he would plug a gap. It would be a bit like us signing, the Greek version. Although I don't think he's Greek, but the Greek version of Jeremy Pied, right? because Jeremy Peahead joined us on a free, didn't he? He was here for 2 seasons, right? He made as many appearances as Lord Lucan did, you know?
Absolutely.
But it would probably, you know, if he signed for us, it would be one of those kind of signings. It's not like you'd sit there and you think, oh, well, we're going to be seeing this bloke week in, week out, you know?
Yeah, that's it. So, moving on to the next story. Tottenham, Southampton and Everton all chasing Mohamed Simakan, and Strasbourg manager Thierry Lory accepts that stopping a departure may be all but impossible while speaking to 20 Minutes. Well, Saints may well have the joint second worst defensive record in the Premier League, and it's no surprise a host of talented young centre-backs appear to have been lined up for some move to St Mary's. Yeah, all these journalists that are doing these stories, bear one minute thing in mind. The second you say Tottenham, Everton, or any other team that has slightly more standing than Southampton in the Premier League in a story linking Saints to a transfer, you know full well that player ain't going to Saints.
Yeah, I mean,
that's just a sad fact of where we are.
One of the other reasons why I brought this story up, Mark, was obviously Ralph Hasenhüttl. I don't know whether you know or not, but there's been a bit of an admission, right, that Pierre Emil Højbjerg, right, there's been an admission from the manager that it looks like he could be leaving shock horror to go to Tottenham or anything. Right?
Crazy.
And he has basically reassured the fan base by saying that we will cope with it. And the way I look at that is I'm thinking to myself, well, I trust you, Ralph, but when you say cope with it, I hope there is definitely an intention there to go out and buy a central midfielder. But anyway, just on this youngster, we talked about a French lad a couple of weeks ago, and it would seem that was it Axel? His name was
Axel Disasi.
Yeah, and it would seem that we're front of the queue with him. Even though Arsenal were interested,
linked with.
Obviously, there's the I would have thought that if he comes to us, there's an agreement that he sticks around for a few seasons, and then if he's any good, Saints sell him on at a whopping profit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're also linked with Jean-Claude Todibo for Barcelona. Please don't get the guy from Barcelona just because he's from Barcelona. No, just coming from Barcelona doesn't mean anything.
To be fair to him, he started out at a French club, and he was playing well,
This is slightly. Then there's obviously Tottenham as well, also involved in that, and this isn't good reading if you're a Spurs fan. It says Jose Mourinho appears to be fighting a losing battle as he looks to keep Jan Vertonghen in North London, while the increasingly, I never thought I'd say this about him, the increasingly error-prone Toby Alderweireld is no longer the dominant force he was during Mauricio Pochettino's heyday, Mark.
Strange.
I didn't think I'd ever hear him saying that.
Strange they should be saying that, because I would have him back at Saints tomorrow.
Oh, he was absolutely outstanding, and I was just as upset when he went to Tottenham as I was when Eyal Berkovic signed for, I think it was West Ham from Saints. Mortified, I think is the best way of putting that. I don't think I was probably the only Saints fan at the time either. Absolutely, just So that's not going to happen.
I was only mortified about Berkovic because I thought he was our player.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I mean? You sat there going, "Hang on, what's happened there?"
Yeah, I'll let you into a little secret. I think Graham Souness probably did too.
He did. He did.
We've got your back, Graham. Yeah, it's all right, Graham. We've got you back on that one. We've got you back, Graham. Right. Neil Lennon hopeful of signing Fraser Forster and Mohamed Ali Enoussi. Yeah, you can take the second one, but I'm not sure about the first, but you'll probably end up getting him if he wants to stay there anyway.
Yeah, I mean...
So he's told the Scottish Sun he's hopeful Fraser Forster and Mohamed Ali Enoussi will return for next season.
All I would say about that is, I mean, Celtic are probably hopeful of getting Fraser for around the 2 million mark. And obviously Saints would be happy for that, irrespective of whether you think he should be given an opportunity or not, Mark. The simple fact of the matter is you can't be paying those sort of £200,000, a week is going on 3 goalkeepers, you know.
Yeah.
And you can't really afford to be paying those sort of wages to 3 first for what you would call first choice keepers.
No, I agree.
So somebody needs to be moved on. And unfortunately, given that, you know, Fraser was given his marching orders at the start of last season in terms of going out on loan, I think, you know, he's the one to go. So, you know, they'd be looking at 2 million. Celtic probably be looking at 2 million there.
Yeah.
I don't think Saints are. I mean, Saints paid an initial fee of £9 million down for El Zanussi. I know people were sat there going on about 15 and 16 million, but that was more to do with recruitments. So basically appearances for Saints and scoring goals and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And as we know, he hasn't done any of that. So I don't think anything's been sort of triggered there.
Absolutely.
So in terms of his transfer value, I mean, what argument are you going to make to sort of turn around and say, okay, we want the 9 million we paid for him? They're not going to get the 9 million to pay.
Absolutely.
So really, at the end of the day, if Celtic was to come up with a package, say of, I don't know, not let's say 9 million for the pair.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You know, I'm just trying to think about it logically. Say 9 million for the pair. I reckon Saints would be stupid not to take that money.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. Yep, definitely agree with that.
And in terms of getting wage, I don't think El Zanussi's on a lot, but in terms of getting wages off the wage bill, and
it's more wages off the wage bill. It saves money. It gets them off the wage bill, and it also gets rid of some of the dead wood, as people call it. Elyounoussi, sadly for us, has been that. Right, well, that brings us to the end of today's show. It's been an absolutely phenomenal show. But before we go anywhere, I'd just like to remind everyone on our Facebook page, Two Saints Show, you can now hear a copy of our podcast. If you'd like to receive that podcast directly, just send us a message on our Facebook page and we can send it to you directly. Also, we now have our brand new YouTube channel, the Two Saints Podcast Show. And if you go on there, you can listen to all the shows from the 2nd of January right up until now. This week's edition is obviously going to go up before Monday, so that'd be fantastic. Keep an eye out for that. And that's all I have to say for today. So it's goodbye from me. And over to my co-host, Mark H, to say goodbye.
It's goodbye from me. I just want to say to everybody, say it every week, you know, stay well, stay safe, look after yourselves. You know, looking forward to seeing many of you, because I know we've got a few listeners that are personal friends and stuff like that. But I'm looking forward to the day that I see you all back at St Mary's.
Yeah, me too. And I look forward to everyone tuning in again next week when the Two Saints go marching in. Bye for now.
Very good. Very good. Bye for now. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye-bye.